Good evening. The June 10th Board of Aldermen of Spencer meeting will be called to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much for coming. It's wonderful to see a full audience here. We appreciate all of our citizens being here, any students who are here, any visitors. We are so glad to see a full room. Thank you for being here. And Alderman Muhammad is going to have our invitation this evening.
With a clear heart and mind, Lord, we come to you as we prepare for this meeting. Give us guidance, give us strength for the betterment of this town. Bless this board, bless the staff, and most of all the residents. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Madam Pro Tem, we have a budget ordinance from related to something from the Transportation Museum. Could we move that off the consent agenda? If it's
Yes. I mean, we have to. Do we have to move to do that? We do, don't we?
You made a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Okay. So that's on the.
That will become item, you want to put it?
Item 8.
8.
Yeah, item 8. Okay. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Muhammad. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, the agenda is approved and set. Okay, we're now moving to recognitions, and this is one of my favorite times of the year because I get to recognize some outstanding students from North Rand Elementary School, North Rand Middle School, and North Rand High School. I think I've told y'all before that we're one of the few places in North Carolina where students can attend school K through 12 in a continuous 2-block district. That is very, very unusual. So we are very, very proud of our students and everything they are accomplishing. So I'm going to recognize these students tonight, and when I recognize them, I'm going to tell you why they were chosen and for what award they were given. And I'm also going to ask if they or their parents or family or anyone is here, when I read their name, if they would come up here and stand and just remain standing till I finish. Now, there are more from North Rand Middle School than the other schools because North Rand Middle School elected, and it's their choice. The schools get to design their awards around the way they feel will benefit their students and recognize the students that need to be recognized. They wanted to save all of their awards till the end of the year and base their awards upon improvement and academic success, involvement, judged by the whole year. So we have 6 awards from the middle school, 2 for each grade level. So I'm going to start with them, then I'll recognize North Rand Elementary School, student of 4th quarter, and North Rand High School, student of 4th quarter. All of the students do receive a beautiful plaque, and they've already been given the plaque at their student award ceremonies at the end of the year. And I told the schools to make sure they invited the students and parents and anyone else in their family to be here tonight if they could be here. So hopefully some of them were able to come, but some of them are probably on vacation. Okay, we're going to start with North Rand Middle School, and we're going to start with the 6th grade. And they chose Kingsley Cook as most improved. She was chosen because she's shown significant growth through the year. He has continued to improve in academics and has the highest scores as the year progressed. He also improved in interactions with peers and teachers. He has upheld the Maverick values we teach and model and in his manners, achievement, and this is why he was chosen. And they also added an award called Magnificent Maverick, and this is for the 6th grade, and Karina Sanders was chosen. Karina was chosen because she always does the right thing, even when no one's looking. She's kind to her peers and teachers. She shows respect to all. She is motivated to do her best academically, ask questions when she needs to. She's an active member of student council and represents our school very well wherever she is. She is a shining example of the values we uphold at Northland Middle School. This is why she is our Magnificent Maverick. So if Kingsley or Karina are here, they can please come up with their families. Okay? I also told the families they could follow this online if they couldn't be here tonight. So hopefully they're watching at home. Our 7th grader who most improved is Valeria Tovar Garcia. They said she has shown steady improvement this semester. She began the year as a very quiet student and shy, but now contributes regularly to class through questions. She seeks feedback, strengthening reading comprehension, and moves up her grades from B's to A's. Her confidence has grown, and she now participates in group discussions. That's hard to get middle school kids to do sometimes. Not afraid to tackle new challenges. Her persistence and effort and willingness to learn from her mistakes is the key to her progress. We are proud of how far she has come and look forward to her continued growth. Now, she'll be an 8th grader next year. Okay, Santana Harrison is the Magnificent Maverick for the 7th grade. Quiet and kind student, exceptional citizenship through thoughtful, respectful attitude and behavior. Doesn't seek the spotlight, but always kind, listens well, and participates as an engaged learner in the classroom. He helps create a positive atmosphere in the classroom and well regarded by his teachers and his peers. Okay, next we have our 8th grade. Most improved, Jacob Zimmerman. This is at North Middle Steel. He will be a freshman this next year. He has shown tremendous growth not only academically but in effort and attitude. The dedication, hard work, and positive attitudes and success embodies the idea that success isn't always about being the best from the start, but how far you can go through determination and effort at the end. Okay, and Miss Janaya Collins in the 8th grade, who will also be a freshman next year, was chosen as a Magnificent Maverick. She is the eldest of 4 children, the daughter of LaShonda Vincent. I'm trying to find the rest of her little thing here. Okay, I got it. Daughter of Lachey and Vincent Hollingsworth, dedicated and exemplary student with reputation for academic excellence, leadership, and integrity. Sounds like you, doesn't it, Trent? Trent was one of my students a long time ago, and he was a good student. A well-rounded individual, Janaya also shines in extracurricular activities. She serves as captain of the cheerleading squad and has previously been a valued member of the dance team. Her involvement extends to academic competitions such as robotics and Battle of the Books, showcasing her curiosity and enthusiasm for learning. In her advisory class, Janaya is recognized as a leader, quiet, kind, and always on task. Her demeanor and dedication set a positive example for her classmates. She aspires to become a nurse practitioner with a deep desire to help others and make a positive impact in our community. Janaya Daniela Collins is a bright young woman with a promising future, grounded in service, scholarship, and compassion. So I think you can see the Northland schools are in pretty good shape because we are turning out some really good students and some teachers that can write well too, and make some great selections. So let's give all of these students A round of Now I've got to do the elementary school and the high school. Okay, excuse me, North Rand Elementary School, Nevaeh Foster, 5th grader, rising 6th grader, always doing right through hard work and as a friend to all. And she was chosen as the outstanding 4th quarter student for North Rand Elementary. North Rand High School is Harris Aguilar, and I think Mr. Francis was able to go and present this award to him. And Rashid, yes, thank you, Rashid. He demonstrated exceptional dedication and commitment last year in academics and the Fire Academy program. He upholds standards of model student and exhibits reliability and integrity, courteous, respectful, dependable, follows through with tasks, a leader on campus, and positive peer role model. Very proud of him and what he has done at and for North Rand High School. So let's give these two you students a round of applause. That's all. This is always a fun part of the job. Okay, are there any other recognitions at this time? Okay, let's now move to public comment. This agenda item is included to allow input to the Board of Aldermen from any citizen who wishes to address the board without requesting to be on the agenda. Those who wish to address the Board of Aldermen must provide their name, address, and topic to be addressed. The board will listen and may or may not respond at their discretion or may decide to place a topic on a future agenda. A speaker will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Okay, we're now open the floor for public comment, and we have one person who is signed up at this time, Sharon Hovis. So Ms. Hovis, if you want to come up from 401 North Rand Avenue Extension.
Madam Pro Tem, while she's coming up, and Mr. Frenzy said, just for a point of order, and I guess a clarification for me, but maybe for some of these folks too, the budget public hearing was last week, right? So anyone who wants to talk about it needs to talk about it after Ms. Hovis. Is that right?
I'm sorry.
If anyone wants to talk about the budget, they need to do it now, right?
So folks who would like to make a public comment, this is the only opportunity to do
I just want to make sure, yeah.
It's a public meeting. We can talk about what we want to in our 3 minutes, Mr. Howe.
No, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about later. That way we do that.
Yeah, I think they already know that.
Okay.
All right, so
just make sure.
you can go ahead and start my 3 minutes. Boom. All I want to say is, first of all, good evening to the board.
Good evening.
This obviously with the budget, once again, I can't express. There's some mixed management going on here. I do feel if the manager was doing his job properly, we wouldn't be even talking about this. We wouldn't even be even discussing from the previous that you did with the budget. I think that if you can come up with a Parks and Rec position, but you can't even make it with a police department or the fire department, but you can come up with a position that we've never even had in this town, but you can come up with that. That's the best you can do to raise our taxes as well. Now, I understand where you're trying to staff up police and trying to make sure you're doing for fire. I get that part. You know I would know that part. I retired from that part. But I'm not getting the part where you get to make up a position too. You just aren't going to be able to get away with that. And if that means I got to run back for a board seat to get back up here to make sure that doesn't happen again, I will do that. I'm here. You guys are supposed to be our voice and protect us from that. We've had previous managers who haven't done what this guy is doing. And I would like to see better by this board so it won't look like you're a doormat for him. Maybe you're not. I'm just overstating myself. But right now, the way I see it, I'm upset. Mortgages are going up. I don't know if you're paying attention to the news, but everything else is going up. We're higher than Rowan County on taxes. I think if you're going to do this, You need to manage it where if you're worried about the fire and police department, then you need to be worrying about them instead of everything else around that, and put the money towards them. Don't keep reaching in our pocket to make that happen. That's not even fair. You just did it last year or year before that. I mean, it's not ours to do. Board, please, look at what's going on. Wipe your glasses. I just got told walking in here, well, you got 3 minutes. Well, guess what? That's what made me run for the seat the first time, when I got told that by the previous board before you. And I ran because I had just 3 minutes, and I made sure I got 2 plus 2 more with 4 years. So don't push too hard about where I stop with what I'm doing. I need to see what you guys are doing, but definitely do something about this, because if you're so worried about the fire and police, then do it all year. Don't wait till budget time and then slap them in the face and then hit us in the behind reference to the monies. It's not our job to do. You work for us. We don't work for you.
Thank you, Ms. Oates.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak tonight? Did we receive any emails or any letters or anything?
I have not, no.
Okay. So last call for public comment.
Madam,
Well,
Mayor,
whatever.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yeah.
I move to close public comment.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, so public comment is now closed. Okay, we will now, I'm supposed to wrap the galley. Public comment is now closed. Okay, the consent agenda is the first order of business. The items listed are believed to be non-controversial and administrative in nature. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless an alderman or citizen requests and is granted permission to speak. The items will then be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Otherwise, all items will be enacted by the board. We've already removed one item from the consent agenda, so that has been taken care of. And in
Yeah, that's all.
the others are the approval of minutes and just approval of minutes. Okay, that's the only thing we'll be doing. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam
That's okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I can't get this right. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented or as suggested.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
Alderman
second.
Smith. Thank you, Alderman Hale. All in favor? Okay. So the consent agenda has been approved. Okay, now we are going to talk about the budget ordinance.
Yeah.
Let me see if I,
That's for this one.
okay. Budget ordinance 24-10.023. Mr. Francis, do you want to explain what this is, or do you want me to, or?
I'm happy to introduce this,
Okay.
and I believe we have Sky Allen on our Zoom connection. This is a budget amendment for a grant that was received for our current year related to the mural program.
The first one actually was the fire department.
We were talking the fire department.
I'm sorry.
First.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, so the item, the budget amendment for the fire department was related to a donation received from the North Carolina Transportation Museum to go towards public education expenses. Of course, our fire department is present at many of the, really all of the major events that happen, and it's an opportunity to do public education. And I don't know if Chief Lanning wants to come and offer a little more insight into the particulars, but the museum provided a donation that helped reimburse some of these expenses associated with the materials that are provided during
Board,
those
how are-
events.
I'm sorry. Board, how are you this evening?
Yeah.
So I'll keep it short and sweet. Obviously, we are very active at the museum. I believe that is a crucial time that we can interact with a lot of the children as their parents bring them to different events. So in coordination with the museum, they recognize the expense that it does cost us to give out plastic helmets, public education material. So that was a donation they made to attempt to offset some of our costs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe I read too that June the 14th is the fire engine day over there, is that right?
That is correct. This Saturday from 9 to 3 with the parade through town with Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll next move to our,
We need to move on, we need to ask for a motion to accept this. We need to approve it, ask for a motion to approve it.
okay. Is there a motion that we adopt this budget ordinance 24-10023?
I move that we adopt the ordinance for 24-10.023.
Thank you, Alderman Muhammad. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All in favor? Okay, we'll now move to the next budget item, budget ordinance 24-10022, the mural Margaret C. Woodson grant, and I'm going to invite Heather Kahn and Scott Allen to present this request to the board. Heather's our finance officer and Scott is the MPA in charge.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Hey.
I'll give you the finance piece of it. In the financial impact, I think a question arose with it, where we were granted $7,000 for the mural walk program, but we're only amending the budget by $2,500. And the reason for that is in the budget, we budgeted for $15,000 in expected revenues, and we have received $10,500 of that expected revenue, which left $4,500 to be collected. With the $7,000 grant, $4,500 will go toward, will take care of that difference there. So the remaining is $2,500. Does that make sense? That while we are adjusting the budget, the $2,500?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions of Heather? Okay, thank you, Heather.
Scott.
Sky, I guess you're on.
Hello.
Hey,
Good
Sky.
evening, board. So several months ago, I applied for the Margaret funding, and we have converted $7,000 grant, which has finalized funding the relations to mural projects on the books. They're very thrilled to. That's all I say on the budget.
So, and Sky, we're having a little trouble hearing your connection, but again, just to summarize, this was a grant application for $7,000 for the Woodson Foundation. And so, the budget amendment, accepts the grant award, and also makes that adjustment of $2,500 in the overall, budget to recognize the excess funding beyond what we were, anticipating to begin with. For the year with our program. And so after you're able to consider this item, then the next one will be related to the art. You know, there's two different ones to talk about related to the art approvals.
Okay. Does any board member have a question?
So just so I understand, we had budgeted that we would get 15,000 grant revenue. We had 10.5 up to now. We have another 7. That's 17.5 minus 15, means we're adding to 2,500, right?
That's correct.
Not spending, we're adding, right?
Correct.
Okay, just so we're okay. Cool.
Spending and adding, but
Yeah,
yes.
gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, any other questions?
So do we need to approve this ordinance then, the financial?
That's the
piece?
request to
Okay.
consider the budget amendment first.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Madam
okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to accept the ordinance amending the ordinance 2410-022 for the to accept the grant from the Margaret C. Woodson Foundation and adjust the budget to account for the extra $2,500 that we received.
Thank you, Alderman Sledge. Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Moody. All in favor? Okay, carries unanimously.
Okay, now back to Sky.
Okay, now we're gonna have,
Back to Sky. Back to Sky.
oh, okay. Okay, we're back to you, Sky.
Yes, all right. I have a short presentation on the two upcoming projects. So this is a presentation of the two remaining concept art pieces with the two artists we have under contract, which are Gina Franco and Lance Turner. Ms. Franco was unfortunately unable to be here tonight, so I will be presenting the piece in her stead. But we do have the second artist, Lance Turner, here with us tonight, and he will be giving a brief discussion on his work and what he has produced for us. So if you wouldn't mind going to the second page. So this piece will go on the side of the former Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures. The Spencer Meal Selection Committee has undergone a design process with Ms. Franco, and we determined that we would like to celebrate the history of a watch and jewelry making school that was formerly located in Spencer and was primarily taught disabled people, veterans, and young women. And together we were able to produce a work that will be installed on 108 4th Street at the next available opportunity, pending, of course, Board and Historic Preservation Commission approval. I would love to answer any questions anyone might have on this piece.
And Sky, the rendering presented at the top, that's the suggested design?
Yes.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah.
Very nice.
Looks nice.
Sky, is that similar to the presentation that we got on right up the block from that, where it's not actually painted on the brick, it's actually a presentation on the wall? Is that right?
So this piece will be painted directly on the wall. We did an assessment of the brickwork, and it is relatively new, so it wouldn't have the same porosity issues that the other piece that we did with the mirrored bears would have had. So this will be able to be painted directly onto the brick.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Let me ask another question. This doesn't relate to that. What is the future of the drawing right there on the old Studemar building?
I think someone said that would be the last mural that was done. I'm not.
That location was one on the list for the new murals, but I think it's further down on the list.
I remember hearing that somewhere.
I don't know, Sky, if you have any particulars on that location and how many murals lie in between now and that location.
Yes, I can. So the original project was for a group of murals, but as my work with the town will be concluding in June, we decided to cut the project back to the artist that we currently had a standing contract with and that we had the funds to complete. So over just this last period, myself and the artists have been working quite closely to ensure that we had pieces to present and close out the project as much as possible by the end of this month. And my coworker, Kyle Harris, has generously agreed to organize the actual mural painting project section of the project. But my goal tonight here was to present you with the concept art pieces, hopefully becoming approved by everyone, and just to sort of set up the project for an easy closeout. But we had several other artists that we had selected last fall, and I informed them that this project was going to be coming to a close, and we unfortunately would be able to contact with them. But we did have these two artists under contract, and I am very committed to closing out this project as best I can. So hopefully there will be the two pieces of art I'm presenting to you tonight will be the final two murals of the Spencer Mural Project for the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
Okay. So this was moving on to the second piece of art that we're presenting. So this piece was created by the artist Lance Turner. He underwent a design process with the mural selection committee, and we created a piece that incorporates a lot of the more natural environment around Spencer, but also the gardens of Spencer. We have a lot of beautiful gardens in the area, and we felt it was important to incorporate those into the work we have, because those are one of Spencer's best features, in my opinion, are the lovely front yards and landscaping that is done around town, especially with the beautiful houses we have. This piece features azaleas and magnolias and dogwoods, as well as the lovely little white squirrel in the corner, and that will go on the right side of the Park Plaza Shopping Center at 400 South Salisbury Avenue. So in the initial submission of the agenda item I did enter the wrong address. And so this is a different address than you might see on that original printed piece, but I have made the correction, and that is why it doesn't match. And I would love to hear any comments, or I could also turn it over to Lance, who has kindly joined us tonight, to introduce himself and tell us a bit about his project.
The picture that you were seeing on the screen and the printout that was in our packet is slightly different.
Yes, I applied the wrong address, but I made that correction with Anna earlier today.
So the one that we have in the packet is the correct one.
400 South Salisbury Avenue is the correct address for the piece.
How large is this mural on the side of the Plaza Shopping Center?
So the plan would be for it to span the wall, which is why we sort of chose a more pared down approach to not overwhelm the space.
20 by 100 feet, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
100 feet, wow.
My name's Lance Turner. I was born in Winston-Salem, and I grew up in North Carolina, and have a master's degree from SCAD. And I started painting flowers just like during the pandemic, because I was walking on the Greenway all the time, and I just started taking pictures of flowers. But I don't know. I really just wanted to paint the flowers on the wall in Spencer, just to like reinforce like what the natural place is, like what flowers are like common and native to Spencer and the white squirrels, and just like reinforce the sense of place that Spencer has, and just make the city look better. With it's not like there's no like opinion or anything in the painting. It's just flowers, just about the place.
Awesome.
We chose the subject matter because Spencer is putting a lot of effort into its outdoor spaces, and this particular piece of art was done to really reinforce and celebrate that work.
Yeah, Mr. Turner, it's amazing. It looks great.
Yeah, it emphasizes the beauty of North Carolina and our town. I love all our murals. I think they've been a wonderful addition to our town. So if you haven't visited them, and you live around here, you need to take time to go by and look at them, because they're really, really nice. Tell a lot about our history and a lot about what we have offered and what we've dealt with. So take a visit to them. Thank you.
Thank you. I will. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think the address and the description here may be incorrect. It says it will be installed at 123 5th Street.
So that was the correction that Sky was referring to.
Oh, okay.
But I guess the other thing, Sky, we're noticing the art in the packet has, and it could be screens versus documents, but we see in the packet the location of the squirrel is more in the middle. On the screen, the squirrel was on the left, and the background on the screen looks kind of more like a sky blue color, versus in the packet it looks more like a green background. And I think that was maybe the original question that you got Alderwoman Sledge about which one is the art, and then, but yes, the address was also corrected.
Yes, I did make the correction on that. That may be an error I made when I was putting together this on Canva. I was trying to make sure the colors would be true to life on the screen, and I think I may have made an error when I was trying to make that happen, unfortunately.
The artwork in the packet that has more of a green looking background, what we would expect,
Sort of a teal.
kind of a teal green color versus more of a, the screen was showing us, at least according to my eyes, a sky that was, a blue that was just kind of gonna blend in with the sky on perhaps a pretty Carolina blue day.
Does the board strongly prefer the sky blue rather than the teal?
Yeah, we are seeing two different,
Colors.
I think, presentations, Sky. Not only are the colors different, but some of the background elements are different, the squirrel's different, so we'll just need to get some clarity, I think, on which one we're supposed to be.
They both look great.
They're both awesome, but
Either
there's
one's fine.
definitely a lot of differences.
Okay, I think I may have made an error there as well. I deeply apologize. If you give me just 1 second, I will pull up the piece that was agreed upon, just so that everyone is clear.
They both have a squirrel. I love a squirrel.
Yeah, the white squirrel.
Gotta have a squirrel.
You gotta have the white squirrel one there.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment. Since everybody's here about funding, we need to make sure everybody understands these projects are paid for by previous attained grant funding. So it's not costing the town anything. This has been budgeted through grants, so it's not costing the town anything for the service. So, Sky, thank you for what you're doing.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Scott.
You've made our town more beautiful, all of them. Thank you.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear you all say that. I very much enjoyed working with the town.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll now move on to the Park and Recreation.
Hang on 1 second, Mayor Pro Tem.
So, Sky, were you trying to identify the correct art to show us now? Is that where we are?
Yes, I'm just going to do a quick, am I able to screen share? Right, okay.
Check
I will do that.
with Dustin to see if he can help you with that.
This is a bit of a quick and dirty copy over from my remote desktop, but this is the piece that was agreed upon, and I'm deeply sorry for the confusion. But this teal piece with the squirrel right here and the different patterns in the corners, this is the one that was agreed upon by the committee and the property owners.
So that is what we have in the
So
packet
is
now.
that,
Okay.
okay. So it's this.
Squirrel.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So it
Looks
does
great.
have that teal background.
That's
Yeah,
pretty.
it's very, very nice.
Looks very nice.
Broke Peter's heart without his
Thank you.
Carolina blue. Sorry.
Thank you.
You'll just have to settle for the sky.
That's for the Duke blue.
That's right, I was just looking at the sky
Carolina
instead.
Panthers blue. Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much
Thanks,
for
Scott.
working that.
So, Sky, are you seeking, I believe you're hoping to get a vote of approval on both concepts from the board at this point, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I didn't, okay.
Yes.
That wasn't written on my notes.
Madam Pro Tem, I enthusiastically endorse both designs. They look fantastic.
And I'll second that.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
Scott.
guidance and work.
Thank you, Sky.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Lance.
To the
Thank you.
artists
Thank you.
too.
thank you, Mr. Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
Okay, we'll now move to item 11, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board bylaws, and I'm going to ask Special Projects Planner Joe Morris to present his request to the board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I can assure you there are no squirrels in this presentation.
I'm kind of disappointed.
That's too bad, we like
But
the
this
schools.
is really a technicality. The board, through the adoption of, ordinance 25-03.01, created a Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And in that ordinance, it requires that the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board have rules of procedure or bylaws from which to operate. The board has now met twice and have reviewed these bylaws, which are essentially a reflection of the ordinance. They did determine a recommended time that they meet, which would be the first Wednesday of each month at 10:30 a.m. They would meet in this room. There are rules around the attendance of the meetings and not missing 3 consecutive meetings, that there would be rules of procedure from which to operate, that they would keep permanent minutes of all its meetings, and then it would, in its capacity as an advisory board, coordinate and recommend strategies and policies to the Board of Aldermen. They are an advisory board. They are not a policy setting board. They would submit to you an annual work plan that would be presented. I assume we would do that during our annual planning meeting that we have in the late winter, early spring. They would make recommendations about our Parks and Recreation properties and adjustments to those parties and alterations over time. Conduct educational programs about parks, recreation, and community wellness. And then they would have the ability to coordinate with state and federal governments on things like grants and availability of parks and recreation funds and that sort of thing. And so it's essentially, as I mentioned, a reflection of the ordinance that has been adopted by the board. But there is this sort of circular technicality that they, in fact, need your approval so that they can have these rules of procedure / bylaws to operate from. So I'm requesting that the board consider adopting these bylaws so that the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board will be fully enabled to provide these services to the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions that you might have? Or?
Any questions?
I would like to clarify that because we did hear earlier about the Parks and Recreation position that is up for discussion, that the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is a volunteer board. I just think it's important to distinguish and make that clear as often as possible.
Right. And I'll just add that the recommendation about the creation of the Parks and Recreation position actually came from the Creating Outdoor Recreation Economy plan that was adopted by this board. So that was the beginning of that.
And this advisory board will report to the town clerk, is that correct?
So that's the way we're set up now, that Parks and Recreation is organized under the office of the town clerk. And she has been attending the meetings. I've been attending the meetings initially, but that's the organizational arrangement at the current time.
And I guess the board as itself, the staff supports the board, and the board is appointed at the pleasure of the elected governing body. So, just to clarify on the reporting in relationships.
And I'll add one final comment, I suppose, is they have hit the ground running.
Yep.
And they have lots of things that they want to do and have been asking for consideration of various things. And so they're excited about serving this community.
Wonderful.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay.
I'd like to move to approve this agenda item, to approve the bylaws for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Sledge and Alderman Muhammad. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, carries unanimously. Okay, we'll now move to the next item of business. Consider adopting Ordinance 25-11, fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. I'm going to invite Manager Franzese and Finance Officer Heather Kahn to present this request to the board.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. Of course, we have been discussing the budget on an ongoing basis, and before you tonight is the budget ordinance as recommended with some revisions that have accommodated a workers' compensation quote that we received and the removal of about $12,000 of contract services expenses next year in relation to the creation of a financial model. There's a net change of a little less than $6,000 from the original recommendation to factor that in. And I will refrain from further comments. I'm happy to answer any questions. I have attempted to share information as requested by our board along the way, and I believe you have received a variety of updates along the way, and so with that I will turn it back to you all, and if you have questions, we're happy to answer them.
Okay, questions or comments?
I would like to make a comment that I think regardless of how the vote goes this evening, that you guys have put a tremendous amount of work into preparing all of the ideas to try and balance the needs of our community, of our staff. So I appreciate all the work that you guys put into this.
I would really like to defer making that vote tonight and wait until our mayor is available to be here for that. I really would like to hear his comments if we could do that. Is that a possibility?
It's a possibility. You know, that's something that you as a board need to decide. I will say our timeline is running short on the ability to get a budget adopted, you know, this month. So today's the 10th, and of course next Tuesday is the 17th, and I believe the following Tuesday is the 24th, and so
I would say respectfully, Alderman Sledge, I appreciate your comment, and I certainly wish, I'm sure Jonathan wished he were here too. I know he had an unavoidable incident or situation. I think based on Mr. Francis' comments, if for example this were to be voted down, they would need time to formulate an alternative, because we do have to have a budget by July 1. I guess technically that's not true, but that's not a good way to go about it.
Also, I think, let me butt in, also, you've got somebody waiting for a job decision, and I think that decision needs to be done this week. We put this person off.
And the other thing, and I had a question from Alderwoman Moody earlier about if there was a different option that was a consensus of the board, rather than what's in the recommended ordinance, could that be considered? And there were some options provided to staff. If one of those other options would be the consensus, then there could be a motion to amend the ordinance to reflect that option, and I believe that could be considered, you know, in a motion and so on, and a vote, and we could proceed accordingly. So if there is a consensus at this point, then it could be considered and go from there. I don't know that the main reason to push it to another meeting would be that if there is not a consensus at this point, that we would need additional direction to try to bring something back to you. But if there is a consensus option that could go forward at this point, then that could be considered.
Okay, those options were the ones that you emailed to us, is that correct?
Yes.
What kind of what kind of percentage would it take to be able to fund the study for salaries and the addition of the Parks and Recreation person, how much money are we talking about? Would 5 or 6 cents more on the tax base?
So based on the recommendation as we have it, includes the position, the already, you know, this recreation position was included in the current year budget in partial form due to established priorities of the town, of course, and so we've been working towards that. And so that is in the recommendation. The cost, the full-blown cost to completely implement the salary study starting July 1 for all town staff, when you also include the benefit costs associated, is about $264,000. And I don't have my calculator, but every penny is about $38,000 and change. So an additional 8 cents past the 2 recommended would do that 100% for the full fiscal year.
So that would be a 10-cent rate increase from where we are now.
That's correct. Doing some portion of that, for example, there's what I refer to as an incremental implementation, which would get us there in 25% increments between now and March, about every 6 pays, which we have a bi-weekly pay cycle. So our pay cycle is, we have 26 pay cycles per year. So every 6 pay cycles or so, we would make an adjustment starting in July, and then going from there 6 cycles, which is 12 weeks, and so on. And then by the time you get to March, we will have implemented it. The full cost of that for all town staff would be about $162,000. One of the options presented would be that if we wanted to implement this, for example, just for our frontline operational departments, police, fire, and public works, the cost for that would be in the neighborhood of about 70, I don't have this number right here in front of me, but about 77,000. 76, which is about another 2 cents. So if you went from, rather than 62.5 to 64.5, it could be achieved, and that is for that incremental, which is about a 60% cost rather than the 100% starting July 1.
I had gone back and pulled the worksheet from the Talk of the Town thing that we had,
yes,
the budget worksheet, and just wondered if we could find a way to put all these changes in place. You know, if we're going to make everybody mad about a tax increase, maybe we might as well just make them really mad.
I would like to make the comment because I think there's some confusion. We talk about supporting our frontline workers and not raising the taxes. The math doesn't match with both of those concepts. And so I think it's important to note that, that these are some tough decisions that are being made with a lot of thought and intention.
I'd said this on, or to some extent said this on Thursday, so I don't want to belabor the point. To piggyback on what some of you have said, Mr. Franzese and your staff, and Heather, I know you guys have worked really hard on this. And for those of you who don't know, we started with a number that was $1 million above revenue about 6 weeks ago, and they've got it down to where we're talking about 77,000. So that's a tremendous, and those are not numbers. It's not monopoly money. You're not wandering around going, oh, I want a jacuzzi and a sauna, and I want a trip to Las Vegas. These are things that our staff are telling you that they need or they want. And we've cut $1 million of that out, and we're now down to 77,000. And the bulk of that $1 million is a pay study, which, again, if you're not sure what that is, and I didn't know until I worked in government, is that basically we ask someone to come in and say, what is the market rate for the services that these men and women out here are providing, and not just these guys, but the folks back there and the folks with Mr. Taylor as they go around and pick up all the stuff that I put on the side of the road. And they do it beautifully on Friday afternoons, and I appreciate that, Mr. Taylor. So it's just like if I wait and buy the truck that I could buy today, I buy it next week. What was, let's see, what's a truck these days? It's really expensive, but what was $50,000 today, now market is now $60,000. So what that study tells us was that their services has now inflated, has gone up. We all know that bad word, inflation. It's gone up since we last hired them or paid them or studied this. So that is the 300 some odd thousand that we're not able to do right now. And these guys, these ladies and gentlemen absolutely deserve it. But like you said, the math just isn't mathing, right? And so to not go up, something has to get cut, or not necessarily cut, but not increased. That's what we're talking about here. You guys know where I am. I've been here when we were talking about February, March. I said I'm not voting on an increase, and I'm not, because we have raised it for 2 years in a row, and I do think there's a responsibility at some point to say we have at this particular moment we've maxed out how high we can go. And you guys know, you see the development over there, you see the development back over here off Hawkinstown. You see the we just approved a medical office building that's coming. It will be many millions that will add, many hundreds of thousands that will be added to our tax base. We appreciate her coming to Spencer and investing in our town. So it's coming. But that's I think that's where it's at. I mean, so if we're not, you know, Mr. Franzese and the board and staff, we're not just throwing money around, right? With that being said, we've talked about this a lot. I'm just going to put it on the table. I'm moving. We deny it as presented. That doesn't mean that we can't manipulate it one way or another between now and July 1. And we'll have to figure out what that means. But my motion is to deny based on as presented. And you all are free to do what you feel is best.
For clarification purposes, tell us exactly which one of the options, or any of the options, or what?
Sure, as recommended. I guess as presented as recommended in the last couple of weeks, but I guess specifically as tonight with the $6,000 increase, which would be a tax increase of 2 cents, I believe, 2 cents.
Correct.
Can we ask questions before I call for a second?
Sure. Actually, you need to call for a second.
You need a second
If you don't get a second, then the motion is.
I'll second that motion for discussion.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Alderman Miller, Alderman Hale. Okay, now, any questions or comments?
Now's the time to discuss it.
Okay. Now clarify again, one more time, what you're asking for.
So the recommendation, I guess, as presented last week, I guess with the tweak from tonight, whereas it would fund the active living coordinator, I think with that $6,000 net change based on, is it premiums? Is that what's changed?
So we received a updated quote for workers' comp coverage, and that was, we had budgeted for 10% increases in our insurance coverages. The workers' comp came back higher than that, and to a tune of about $18,000. We cut an additional $12,000 out of our recommended budget because of that, and just due to all other considerations, we're no longer recommending the establishment of a financial model at this time. And so that left a net change to the recommended budget of about $6,000. I will note we also got our updated quote for property and casualty insurance, and it came in as budgeted. So we were good. Hallelujah.
We got one.
But so that was good that it came back as we had budgeted. But does that answer the question?
Okay, so if we vote to accept his his motion, then that means we send it back to the drawing board and you come up with some new numbers. Is that correct?
That would be what you, if the motion
Absolutely.
is approved, you're voting to not to approve the budget ordinance.
As someone who was not able to attend pre-agenda due to a sudden injury, my apologies, I would like to share my thoughts. I will also be voting no to the initial plan as presented. But the town has worked so diligently, and again, thank you to all of our staff, to really listen to our concerns and help give us some alternatives. And I don't know that we have a consensus for this tonight, but if we do, I would move that we vote on those additional alternatives that have been brought to us. If we think that we need more time to talk, we can, but I think the underlying issue is that it's a tough year, it's a tough decision, and we're uncomfortable with that. But I don't feel that I need more time to think, to wonder. I think we are all going to do our best to represent our community, and I do want to reiterate that to support first-line workers with a livable living wage and then say no tax increases, we want to stay the same in a hurting national economy with inflation, you cannot have both of those things. And so I just want to make that clear that should a tax rate happen, who knows? It is not for it's not for frills, it's not for fun. It is because we are in a very difficult economy, and our staff and frontline workers, just as everyone in this room, deserve to receive a living wage and to be able to feed their families, as I'm sure everyone struggles with. And so I just want that to be known, that a discussion of tax increase is not a callous disconcern for the community and fixed budgets. It is simply looking at the big picture, the complete picture. We do not live in a bubble where we can choose to stay the same forever. The world evolves, and we must, sink or swim, right? So.
Thank you, Alderman Moody. Any other questions or comments?
Melissa, do you want to share any of your thoughts?
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor and it has been seconded. So, do we need to repeat the motion again?
Yes, one more time.
Okay, so my motion is that we deny the budget as presented last week, I guess the recommendation, and that the modification being the tweak that Mr. Franzese has outlined tonight, which is actually, it's a net $6,000 increase. So that would still capture that 2-cent tax increase, and that also encapsulates the activity, the Parks and Rec activity living coordinator position, or however you say that, but that position, as presented, again, that's my motion, is that we deny.
Okay, and it was seconded by Mr. Miller. Okay. All in favor? Okay. That's 4 to 2. I guess.
You may want to call all opposed.
Yeah.
Or,
Do what now?
you may want to call for those opposed.
Those opposed.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, so the motion carries.
Motion to deny the budget ordinance carries. That's
back
correct.
to the
So I guess what I'll say, just to make sure, now if there is consensus on something different at this time, that can be considered as a separate motion. But if not, we need your feedback. We need to be able to put something before you that is is a consensus.
So, Mr. Friend, I don't mean to make light of this because it's not funny, but gallows humor is a specialty of mine. I saw an article last week about the budget process in Washington, and someone called someone else a legislative arsonist, which I thought was an interesting alliterative term. So in the effort to avoid being a legislative arsonist myself, I'll repeat my suggestion from Thursday, and that's we remove the activity living coordinator. And I don't know who that person is. I'm sure they would have done a great job. I hope this time next year, this board is adding that person, maybe before that. I don't know. We'll see how things go. But it is absolutely something we need, but it's not something we can afford. And again, to borrow from Senator Johnson, I don't agree with Senator Johnson very often, but he made the statement that sometimes you have to tell the kids we can't go to Disney World because we can't afford it. And this is kind of up there with that. So that's 63. That's inclusive of benefits. I mentioned cutting the $4,000 in half, and that's again based on the fact that the attendance was much less than was expected. And again, that's a wonderful organization, not trying to slide anyone, but that's just trying to make tough decisions. That's 2,000. That's roughly 65.
Are you talking about the Rusty Homes?
That's right. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you for fixing that.
Contract service.
Removing the two $3,000 stipends for the Community Appearance Committee and the HBC. And again, those are great organizations. I want to fund them, but when we have to make tough calls, we have to, in my view, we have to do without.
And just a point for clarification, that those amounts were not stipends; those were additional grant funds.
Sure.
Remaining grant funds in from the original amounts that we were working with, as well as just operational type monies. It was not a stipend for those boards.
Okay. Well, and obviously we don't want to violate any grant terms. So if it's grant money, then we don't.
No, it's not. It was for us to be able to award
grants. Okay, I got you. Yeah. And I think that would get us above 70, 71, 72. And then I mentioned again that we reduce our stipend, which would, I think, if we reduce it $100 a month, I think that gets us to right at 77, which I think would balance it, I believe, or come very close to it.
And I had a list of, maybe we just compare this list here. We had calculated the following that would total $76,747, $63,547 salary and benefits from the recreation position, adjustment of the board stipends on the 5 aldermen and the mayor pro tem positions by $100 a month. That would be $7,200. A reduction in recreation contract services, which was speaking to what you were speaking of, but also if the position is going away, some of the contract services related to other areas that position would be working with, $4,800. A corresponding $1,800 reduction on the revenue side from some recreation program fees that we were anticipating would be part of it. And then the 3,000 pause on the CAC and HBC programs. All of that together is a change of $76,747. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead and finish. I want to say something.
So again, that is the equivalent of the amounts we were talking about tax rate wise. That also is, again, we've calculated on the side of the funding for the 3 departments in an incremental basis of $76,785. So that was some of the options that were shared and it's available.
Let me say, if I may, I appreciate you doing that. For folks playing along, again, they're big numbers. $5 million is not a small sum of money. But in terms of what that operates around the town, that's the equivalent. My dad used to joke it was a bread and water week, and that's a bread and water week. That is we are running, but we are running. That's it. It is the lights are on, and you can come in the building, and the folks will show up. That's all we're getting with that budget. So I know it's, and I don't do it lightly. It's just that this is what the expenses versus revenue says. I would just say this: if there's one more cut we can find of some modest amount of money that we can up what they're getting, And that maybe maybe leave it to the department heads how that money is distributed. I mean, I don't want to be up here playing again, Mr. Monopoly, because I don't know how that can be done. But if we can find one more cut and get these folks a little bit more, I'm willing to undertake that. If we can, I mean, maybe not. It might not be possible, but if we can find one more cut somewhere, or we can, instead of, it's 1,200, right, per.
The current recommended budget includes for a flat $1,200 adjustment per year for full-time staff.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that's included in that for our employees.
Also, our bonus program, we have also a $500 bonus for full-time, and then for part-time, that would be the $1,200 adjustment would be $600 for part-time, and the bonus of $500 is $250 for part-time.
But that doesn't take into consideration these incremental the incremental raises that you were talking about in a quarter. That's not part of what Mr. Howard.
So what I was trying to make sure you understood is if the list of reductions that we just talked about, that total $76,747. That roughly can either
holds the tax rate where it is now.
Keep the tax rate where it is.
Right.
As one option. As a different option, by not changing the tax rate but making those savings on expenditures, it would fund the incremental. That is the extra amount needed past what's already programmed in for the $1,200 flat increases to fund the incremental pay study implementation for police, fire, and public works only.
I think this is a great time to comment. I loved your comment on the lights are on and people are showing up, but that's it. I think it's important for our community to understand that if we cannot pay competitive wages, you do have the risk of when you call 911, we're going to have to come up with some other plan, because I don't know about you, but if I can find a higher paying job really close to home, sometimes the books send me there, right? And so I do think it's important for us to recognize that while no one wants to raise taxes, and I'd like to also point out that, we pay the same tax rate.
That's right.
Yes, we do.
If we cannot pay people living competitive wages with our neighbors, I'm not talking other counties, I'm talking just other municipalities, we are going to lose the services that we have here, the services that are not fluff that we absolutely depend on. We cannot expect those people to continue showing up if we cannot pay them the livable wage. So I just want to really put that out there, that taxes are not raised for fun, that we are trying to keep up in a very competitive labor market. And again, we do not live in a bubble, so we've got to at least acknowledge that. We can be upset about tax increases. I think with the proposed tax increase, while I should know what my property value is, I don't. But understanding what my budget looks like day to day, I think mine is going to be a couple of more dollars a month should the tax increase go as it has been presented so far. However, it makes a world of difference to the people that we depend on to be able to go to the grocery store and get what they need. And that's really what this comes down to for me. So I just think it's really important to highlight that there, that a tax increase allows us to pay the people we depend on as they should be paid.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll just piggyback off of what was stated. I stated on Thursday, in agreement with what Mr. Howell stated in reference to taking a cut on our stipends to accommodate, the staff, but also too, I also asked, was there a way that if we did move forward with the Parks and Recreation, position, if we could lower that salary base, but that was not an option. But I can say wholeheartedly, I don't want us to run the risk of losing great workers that this town has as well. And it's a difficult decision on either end of the spectrum.
So we've given some guidance, And I don't know that we'll get a consensus tonight, but we, as the board, have all been provided with updated plans, updated information, and maybe we're not ready tonight. But I would be willing to make the motion that we, what's the term? Revise the ordinance?
Amend the ordinance.
Amend the ordinance, thank you, sir, to continue to move forward. Because we could stay on this hamster wheel, but I think we all know where we fall, where our priorities are. We've been presented with free, updated options here, and we could put this off, but honestly, I don't think that's going to change anything. And I'm not super comfortable moving closer and closer to July, when I suspect that we may simply just be putting off this vote because we're uncomfortable, because it's a tough bread and water year. So I make a motion that we amend the ordinance and vote on that tonight.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion, further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it a little bit more. Okay. What I think I'm hearing from you, Ms. Moody, is that we take a look at the second option to reduce expenses by $77,000 to fund incremental the salary study implementation for police, fire, and public works only. Is that correct? Is that the?
That's my personal vote. However, my motion is that we amend the ordinance. And do we have to pick one of the options and that's what we can amend it to, or can we discuss all three? Basically just moving, like, let's just do the thing.
Well, let me,
I think y'all are saying the same thing.
yeah, let me just ask another question. Assuming that we do vote to do this incremental study, salary study implementation, how do our employees, where do they stand on this? Are they good with an incremental increase? I mean, you know, we don't want to lose our people. We've worked too hard to get this town to the point where we have full-time people and good staff people and excellent employees. We don't want to lose any of them. And some of these guys, the girls, are working other jobs, you know, a part-time job or fill in as a reserve officer or a part-time fireman somewhere else. We can't lose these people. So my question is the incremental thing going to work? Or do we just need to go ahead and bite the bullet and increase the tax rate to where it has to be?
Well, just to make sure you understand, what the incremental plan does is it moves our pay rates to what the study recommends.
Right.
But instead of jumping all at once July 1, we work to get there between now and March. So
right.
In July, we get 25% of the way there, and 12 weeks later, we go another 25% of the way there, and so on. And by the time we get to March, we would be there.
We would still lose the person for the Parks and Rec. Is that correct?
That was suggested as a way to fund. That was among the list of $76,000 of savings that could be used to fund this option.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What's the consensus among our department leaders on this?
So, of course, that's a hard question. I'm right there with them. We wish collectively, and we've had a lot of conversations about this. Of course, this is important. This was important to the board. The numbers are not working out. The limitation of we talked about this in April. The direction from the board at that time was not to look at our property tax rate as an option. And I couldn't get to the point that I was able to recommend to you a budget that didn't look at the property tax rate, and we tried our best to keep it to a minimum while doing, you know, but it was impossible to have that as kind of a constraint in the process and bring forth to you, let's go forth with $260,000 of additional expense. So what you see before you, I don't know that any of our staff felt great about it. I don't feel great about it, but it's something we understood that we're in this work because we love what we do. We're driven to serve, and it's a long game, right? working for the public is something you do, and the times are good and the times are less good, and overall we're all going in the same direction and we're all going together. I don't know if you want to get to the point of having folks come up and share their individual thoughts, but as leaders of the organization, the conversations we have is, we don't like this, but we understand this is where we are right now. But it was really a factor of the constrained environment with which we had to put this budget together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think to get to the 260,000, we'd need 6.5% rate increase. It's roughly $40,000 per penny, and if you're looking at $260,000, is that not 6 cents?
I'm going to need a calculator to do that kind of. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's pretty close.
So
It's pretty close.
yeah, I mean that. So the other factor to keep in is what we've budgeted in for the flat program, the $1,200. That's worth about $49,000.
Okay.
Plus, and I'm going to start looking for Heather. Okay. So I believe it was around 49,000, and then that also then has that 30% factor put in on top of that. So just so you know, if the overall price tag, of I'm trying to boil it back down to the
overall price tag of the whole thing.
Well, when the 260 was including the benefits,
Right.
that was based on, I think, roughly 200 plus 30%.
Right.
So if you take away the benefits part, and we were talking about a $200,000 program, we have 49,000 of that funded, or roughly a quarter, through the $1,200 flat increase program, if that makes sense. So so when we said, so here's what was happening in the process. Here's how the sausage was made. We were going through various implementation scenarios of, okay, well, what portion of this can we do? And it was having to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and by either pushing it off or various combinations. And it got to the point where it was so small that it was just going to be offensive to our team. And rather than do that, well, let's just spread what we can do equally and let everybody have something somewhat decent that's somewhat representative of something reasonable, rather than nothing if we can't bite it off. So that's where that approach came from. But just so you understand, what's currently in the numbers that we're working with is the equivalent of 1/4 roughly of the full study. But so for every quarter you add, every additional quarter, of that full study, there's then going to be another 30% with it, if that makes sense.
So the chart that you see on page 36, might be easier to do a visual there.
36.
Yes.
I think my pages are numbered. What?
It's on page
So
36. Should be
there's
on
a
page
page,
36 of your
it's
packet.
just after the cover sheet for the budget. There was the chart that showed our recommended budget, the tax rate, the impact on homeowners, et cetera. And then the chart below that was starting to slice and dice the salary study to help you understand.
The top of the page, the first thing on the page says recommended GF budget.
36. Okay, yeah.
Do you have that page? Do you see
The
it?
pages aren't numbered in print, but if you get to the cover page for the budget,
I found it.
Item, which is number 12. Like if you look for your agenda item 12 in your packet, the page that follows it is what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's before you get to it's on its own back this way.
From your agenda.
Yeah, there you go.
We're talking.
Here.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay.
Page 36.
Oh, you gave us that.
Thank you.
It's,
I got so
Shouldn't
much-
take this many directions,
It's
but
too much
it's been a long
time.
day, you know, I just
oh,
got it.
do I have that?
Oh,
It's on my
that
computer.
Before or
so
after
it's
the-
printed.
Heather, that was
Yeah.
an addition
No,
last
no.
time, so it was printed, so it's not in here.
See, I
So it
just
was
have my
printed
pre-agenda
and
packet.
given last time.
It's not, I don't think it's in the packet. This is the, let's see. All right, this is the cover sheet. Oh, is this it? Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Where'd you find that?
Well, I printed the new packet out, so it's here, okay.
I didn't even see this before I made it. It must have been.
Yeah, she's seen it late this afternoon, I think. All right, so tell us what we're looking at then.
All right, so what we're looking at is, the first column there is the flat 1,200.
This is down here.
You'll see it by department. Then it shows the 30% for the fringe. In other words, that's your FICA, your Medicare, your retirement, and all that. That's what is your 30%. So $63,960 is what it will take to give every single person in the town of Spencer $1,200 on
All
their
full-time.
for full time on their salary
For the
right,
year.
for the year.
And that is currently programmed in the numbers we're working with.
So that's $100 a month.
Right,
What we're
that's
talking
$100 a month.
Yeah.
That's about a little less than $50 a pay. So then the second is the full study. The third is your increment study. So the $161,000 that you see there, you take the $161,000 plus the $63,960 that's already in the budget. That's what you're going to have to add to it in order to get to the increment for every single person.
The column next to it, that shows a total of 97,963.
So,
Do you see that on the chart?
so it's, so incremental study is 161,923, and
That's for the whole. I was wrong. That's for the whole. So the additional needed for the total increment is 97,000 is that next column.
so that is a combination of, that would be then 97 plus the 63,9.
That would be the incremental study. That's how much you would have to put into to do the increment for every full-time employee.
So the scenario that we were talking about a few minutes ago, that was police, fire, public works only,
Right.
that was about 77,000, including the fringe. So this 97 would be representative of all departments.
All departments, all employees, another 20,000. So if I'm looking at this right, then that's another 4 cents of tax, I think,
Well,
roughly.
it depends where you're starting from, but so
Tell me what your end goal would be.
Yeah.
What's your end goal, and I'll tell you how to get there.
Well, the end goal would be, blue sky, I'd like to have all of this. I'd like to have our employees have every penny that they deserve. I'd like to have
Yep.
that Parks and Recreation person out there, because I think we've invested a lot in that program, and I think we've talked about the kind of services that we'd like to provide for this community.
For sure.
Youth events, utilization of the new park, where we would actually be getting some income by people using that park. I mean, yeah, if you want the blue sky.
Well, it's
then,
a little bit cloudy, so we can't do the blue skies, okay?
Nice analogy.
That's a
Okay,
good
so
analogy.
a little bit cloudy. So
Might be a little
from-
thunder involved in that thing too.
So, in order to get to the full incremental study, which that would be a total of 161, 63.9 is already in there.
Yep.
So we're looking at an increase of 97,000.
and I have a calculator that I.
Wonderful.
So
how many pennies is
if there were no other cuts
97,000?
made to expenses,
that'd be free.
and we were adding in the additional 97,000, it would be about 2.5 cents. It would be 2.55 cents roughly to fund that.
So that means that we
tax
have,
rate-
in the current budget, that the recommended budget was an increase of 2. To increase that 97 would be another 2.5.
Another 2.5.
That means you're looking at 4.5 across the board if you want the Parks and Rec position and you want the incremental study for the whole year.
So that's 64.5 cents on the 100.
It would be, it would actually go to 65.
65. 65 cents would be your
It would go a little beyond 60. It'd be 65.05 probably to. We can actually set tax rates to some of them are set to 4 decimals. I mean, they don't have to be even integers or, some of the numbers can actually be quite precise, but an additional 255 beyond the recommended would do what you're asking.
Well, at 4 o'clock this morning when I couldn't sleep, I was looking at small towns in North Carolina about our size and what their tax rates are. And, 65 cents, that would still be below some of them. Because, I mean, I looked at one that was like 90 cents, and there was, I think one town had a tax rate of $1.17 or something on 100. So, anyway.
Heather, what would be our tax rate if we go ahead and use the increased salary without the rate person, as far as that goes?
So we would do, basically the implementation of the $1,200 increase and the Parks and Rec, that basically washes each other out, right?
Well, let me
No.
ask a clarifying question.
Okay.
When you're saying without the position, are you saying just that, or are you saying all those other expense cuts that we were talking about earlier as a starting place?
I think we kind of said we're going to cut all those items that, so let's just, for the time being, let's just say we're cutting all those items.
So so that would I believe the difference was about $20,000.
Okay.
So,
I still think you're looking at about 2.5.
So it wouldn't be any change for what?
So, Steve, are you saying take it back to 60, but then add the pay grade update? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He was, if I'm understanding what Steve's talking about, is he's talking about no tax increase as a base, but then adding the pay study amount. Is that, am I understanding that right?
Well,
that's
and
correct.
are you saying for all staff?
Yes, for all staff. Yes.
Yeah, 2.5 cents. Yep.
2.5 cents would be what it is. So
that would bring it to 62.5. Is what you recommended, but it would
we're at 60.5 currly.
Right.
So 2.5 would take it to 63.
60. Okay.
Let's make sure that, so the incremental study is 161,923. So 161,923 divided by 1 penny is 38.
It's 38,354.
354.
But Heather, we're talking about 97,963 because
that's right, because the 63 is already in.
So if you divide 97,963 divided by 38,354, that would tell you the
2.55.
what now?
2.55.
2.55.
And that's the entire staff. That's not just the frontline fire, police, public works.
That's everybody.
That's correct. That is for all departments.
That's the way it should be. Everybody should get the same rate.
So it's the same answer to your first question. It's just whether you're starting from the. But that's the full scope of our organization in that incremental plan. 2.55 cents.
But without the Parks and Recreation person.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, it's not funding the active living coordinator position.
Right.
It's adjusting the board stipends. It's reducing recreation contract services. It's removing rec program fee revenue, and it's pausing the CAC and the HPC grants altogether for fiscal year 26 and reducing those accounts to $500 each for operations. So the line items that were listed here in option 1, that's where that comes from.
I've lost my place again.
I'm gonna make a comment. You know, it's really important. The town runs on its staff, and I want to make sure we keep the staff as we have them now. I voted against the price increase, tax increase, because I didn't want to see it as it is. That's why I voted. But at the same time, since we've already mentioned this and everything else, I think we should bite the bullet and do what we just suggested about increasing the salaries and doing away with the recreation leader and all the other little additives to increase the tax 2.5%. That's my comment.
2.55 cents.
2.55, excuse me.
So here's my question. That's your comment. Do you want to stew on that and come back, or do you want to make a motion to amend the ordinance to say that and then vote on it?
I would.
I would second.
And just, so that would be a tax rate of 63.05 cents.
Okay.
Oh, I think, okay, sorry, I want to make sure I have the minutes. So Aaron, Alderwoman Moody had made a motion to amend the ordinance tonight. Alderwoman Sledge seconded it. We have not
Sounds like,
had a vote.
sounds like there's perhaps some modifications, some further,
Friendly amendments.
you're creating some more specificity in that amendment.
Okay.
Yes, so I think you're amending your motion at the moment,
I am.
perhaps.
Yes.
You could withdraw your motion or
I
amend.
withdraw my motion.
Okay.
You know we can do that. Thank
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
sir.
And
That'd be good.
then it sounds like there's a new motion.
Yes. All right. Do I need to make that motion again?
Yes.
Okay.
In specific.
In specific, so hard to do. I make the motion that we approve the implemented study on tax increase for all employees and do away with the living coordinator and all the other little additives, which is just a stipend, $100 per month per alderman, reduce the recreation contract by $4,800, reduce the rec program by $1,800, pause the CAC and HPC by $3,000. Make it a motion.
Okay, that's your motion. Second.
Second.
Okay, second. Any more discussion? You have something else to say?
Well, I want to ask one other question. In the original thing when we were talking about, now this is, in this motion, it's removing the contract person for Parks and Recreation. In the earlier stuff, we talked about taking away some of the contract positions in some of the earlier things. Who specifically are we removing contracts? I know Sky's going away, that program.
So you're asking about our original recommended budget?
Right.
We made some recommendations based on some slight adjustments in the hours per month. Some of it was more about right sizing to, but we're talking about the contract planning services. I mean, those aren't really the numbers we're talking about tonight.
Right, I understand that.
But you're asking about, so our contract planning services covers our planning and zoning administrator, our special projects planner, and our planner. So that would be Steve, and Joe, and Kyle.
Right.
And there was a bit of a reduction in the hours for over the course of the year for each of those. It was not overly significant, but it was a reduction in the hours as we were putting those numbers together. I was in touch with everybody through that process to make sure that we weren't going to be causing an issue.
Because one of the things I wondered about was the community block grant funding that we
Yes.
have. That is
Well,
still ongoing.
Yes, so of course, Kyle works with us. He's a full-time employee of the Salisbury Community Development Corporation.
Right.
We have a contract with them for planning services, and that organization bills us for the time that Kyle spends with us forget about the CDBG administration, on things like the HPC administration,
right,
and other event permits and all the other things that Kyle has done for us. What we are doing with the CDBG, that grant in itself has administrative funds that cover the time related to that.
Right.
So that is outside of, and that is not really accounted.
That's not going to be impacted by
that
this.
grant is still there on its own, and we're operating through it and that sort of thing. So yes, that is not in jeopardy at all related to what we've talked about.
Okay, because I know that's about half of it's been used. There's still about half of it left to be used. And if I remember correctly, there was some possibility of an additional amount that could come in the form of a grant.
Yes, so the way that works is approximately 10% of the grant is eligible for administrative purposes. So
right.
When we got the $750,000, that made $75,000 of that available for administrative purposes.
All right, and you and he, I believe, are still involved with that 100 county program?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And that's an initiative that the expenses for that are being covered by the program, or really through the other side of the house, where the Community Development Corporation is leading this effort in itself. So we're not necessarily getting billed for the time that Kyle is spending working on that.
Okay, I just didn't want us to throw out the baby with the dishwater. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, are we ready to take a vote? Okay, all in favor of Mr. Miller's motion, raise your hand. All opposed?
No. Okay. All right, so it was what? 3?
Looked like it was 2 to 4.
2 to 4. Okay. All right, so the next option then is to see what we need to do to come to some kind of consensus.
Do you want to try and do that tonight, or do you want to give Peter more feedback? I think Alderman Miller and I have been pretty direct in what we would like to see, and so I guess the feedback would have to come from the 4 opposed.
Okay. I am not in opposition to what you plan or what you're talking about. I support that, but I still think we could add another penny or 2 and add some of this stuff back. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And that's kind of how I feel too. I don't want to lose services that we're providing, and I think people think that the Park and Rec thing is a frill, but it's not. And it's designed to bring activities for everyone in our community. And a lot of people say, well, we have enough activities, or we have too many already, but we have people at every one of these, and different people like different things. And we have such a wonderful showcase of parks, and I want to see them 100% utilized. And I want to take some of the pressure off our staff up here especially, and on Joel's department, with managing and helping some with all these events and things. So it's just something I'm thinking about, and I definitely want to see everybody get the salaries they deserve. We promised it, and I think we ought to try to stick to it. And I think, I know it'll be tough for a while, but it's gonna be tough maybe for a couple of years, and then it's gonna even out.
May not even be a couple of
No.
years, because, I mean, we've got projects underway that, those townhomes are, probably by this time next year, they'll be there. And, the truck stop, I feel like it's gonna be there. So, I mean, how much revenue are those gonna bring in?
We believe that, we're gonna see roughly 5 to 10% increase in our assessed values.
Mhm.
Our assessed values currently are about 300 million. So, a 5% increase on that would be 15 million.
Right.
And then apply your tax rate to that. But we believe that's what we're gonna see in the next year.
I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, but,
No.
but there are projects underway that are going to happen.
And one reason these projects are coming here is because our employees have done such a good job of getting us to this point where we are. And people have their eye on Spencer and they like what they see. So we're glad they're coming, and we hope they keep coming. It's just a two-edged sword. I have no doubt that if and when we do reach a consensus, that it will be one that has been amiably reached and with respect for everybody's opinion. So I think that's very important that we show that. And I think everybody up here knows that we value their services and what they do for us. But
Is there a consensus on, we've gone through 2 iterations here, but is there a consensus on what the appropriate tax rate should be?
that would help, wouldn't it?
Yes. As a starting place, and then you could determine what you're gonna fund with that.
I know it's stated, if we opposed to have us comment, and honestly, I feel though we need to leave it where it's at. And if we can find some other ways to cut, expenditures so that we can honor.
So you're saying not increase taxes at all? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Well, what do you want to cut out?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's up to me to just cut it out. I mean, as a whole consensus, I mean, that's something that we would have to probably consistently review, because I mean, it's.
I think if I can borrow I think Mr. Muhammad and I are thinking on the same wavelength, but I've now looked at it, I think in depth 4 times. I did it again just a minute ago. I mean, unfortunately, things cost. Somebody does a business. There's a fixed floor to operating to an operational cost, and I mean, I trust our staff that this is a lot of these things. 99% of what's left, it's the fixed operational floor. You cannot operate underneath that.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I would say is it looks like we're probably going to be meeting again here in 2 weeks or in about 10 days to prove something.
Likely.
If there's anything, any additional fluff, I don't think there's much, if any, if there's any additional fluff that we can, read to the point where, I was even looking at the tipping fee. Could we ask the landfill to float us a yearly tipping fee? I don't think they'll do that. Those are the kinds of things that, I guess that tipping fee is $68,000, right? So I unfortunately, I think we're kind of at the floor. It's the tough spot that we're in, and I really want to fully fund what they need.
I do too.
I do. I can in good conscience vote an increase, particularly one this 5 or 6 cents, because we did it last year. And though we didn't, we actually went down in tax rate 2 years ago, we actually went up in
Raised it
value
back up.
because I mean, so there's actually two truths there. We went down the rate, but the amount went up. So I mean, it's a net increase. I just think at some point you have to take a pause and say, we have to let the revenues that we know are coming, we know they're coming, we have to let them catch up. So I mean, that's the unfortunate situation that I think we're in, is that maybe to get something passed here, I mean, there's gonna have to be a compromise. I'm not sure where that line is, to be honest. I've got to think about it. Look, same thing with the activity coordinator position. I know we need it. And when we done one of these walks in November, I had someone ask, why do we have these parks? And no one actually does anything with them. I mean, I was like, that's a great question. I mean, so I know we need it, and that person will come in, and we'll have events, and it'll be great. It'll be fantastic. We have these beautiful facilities that we need things happening in. But I can't add a hypothetical person when we can't give who we have already. They've committed to Spencer, they're already here. We can't give them what they need and what they deserve. I can't add. I just can't do it. So
if we don't take care of them, we won't have them.
exactly. I mean, we have to take care of you all, right? And
Absolutely.
so we've got to do that. And so I don't see how we can have that position. I don't see how the math works in any situation at all, how we can have that person. And I know that probably, you know, that's not going to look good, because someone or someones have taken time to come and hang out with us for a few hours and interview for jobs. And actually, I think I saw someone walking around a couple weeks ago with Mr. Franzese. Don't know who it was, but it occurred to me, that might be someone interviewing for a job. And that's not good. And I hate we're at that situation. But I also think it's not a good thing to do something, extend ourselves beyond what we can do. That's never a good thing to come into either, if you're that person. So I mean, that's just
true.
You know, that's where I'm at. I wish I could be more flexible. I wish I had, and we did the 77,000 on Thursday to get us to where we are. I just don't know. I just don't know where we're going to cut further. I
don't have any suggestions for what else to cut. So I would really highly suggest, what else can we cut? I think they're going to need some suggestions on what your thoughts are on what that can be, because I think what they think could be cut, I don't think they're holding back. We've got what they think we can cut.
That's it.
Yeah.
I also need some clarification, because I really agree with what you're saying, but that idea of no tax increase, which in a perfect world, I would love to vote for that. Does that put us at the point where not only do we not have the active living coordinator, but then we are simply doing the 1,200 base rate increase for full-time staff? Is that what that means?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's important to point out, that before I even came to this board, perhaps before I even moved to this community, you guys worked really hard to go from being reactive to proactive services in this community. And I think 12 months, you could see a real backslide if you're not careful. We just had to have a bunch of people who left this meeting because they got called out. That's where my vote is gonna be. That, I don't know about you guys, but and I'm not knocking the efforts. I think you guys have gotten direction from this board on what our priorities are, and you have done everything you can to provide us with all the options. But math does not, you cannot manipulate it beyond a certain point. And so I'm just going to say that I don't think that is fair compensation to our staff, who I would put up against any municipality, anywhere, anytime. So while I really, I appreciate not wanting to raise the tax rate, but I don't see how we do that and keep this town running with the services that not only are we used to, there's a lot of services in this community that I'll tell you, as someone who's lived a lot of other places, do not exist in other communities. We are very fortunate here. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to maintain that level of service whatsoever if we don't acknowledge and compensate appropriately for that.
Yeah, agree.
Very much.
Well,
It's
it's a deep hole.
uh,
I don't think there's anything else that we can cut. I don't think there's any fluff left. And, the unfortunate thing that we're looking at here is that the communities around us have had an influx of business and things that have brought them more tax money. Salisbury is a much larger organization, and they've got a lot more businesses that are paying tax money into them. Granite Quarry annexed that section over there where the Dick's Sporting Goods is, and that's a new annexation for them. They're building a Chick-fil-A out there, and so their tax base is going up. East Spencer went up on their tax rate. Was it 18 cents? They went up last year, and they've got new industry coming in, new buildings, and new businesses coming in over there. There's a big housing development that's being built out there. The county's looking at some business centers that are coming in. So, these people all around us, China Grove has all this development of the Macy's and all that development down there in their area. Cleveland has Freightliner. I don't know that much about Rockwell, and I really don't know that much about what Faith has. But, those people have been able to hold their taxes down and keep them. We're in the position where we've got a lot of growth coming in. We've got a lot of building coming in with housing. And we've got a lot of projects that are in the pipeline that are going to come here, but we don't have that. We don't have that money yet, but it's coming. I have faith in that. I think this town is set for.
It's our turn.
Yeah. But we've just got to figure out a way to take care of what we've got, and be prepared for that's coming. So we've got to take care of our people here. So
if there's no further discussion, y'all are free to continue, of course, to deliberate this. Y'all have to, at some point, it passes when there is at least 4 votes for it. So whether that's in place tonight or not, I still can't quite, I can't tell for sure. But if y'all have reached the point where you believe you've discussed it as much as you can, the things we do need are, one, when are we going to be able to reconvene to continue this discussion? And again, the staff has put these options. I think there's been some different options explored tonight. If one of those things is something that is of the consensus, then we can put that back before you. But again, the calendar is not in our favor.
Can we just ask who absolutely will not vote for a rate increase? So 2 of you say absolutely no rate increase, period.
Correct.
Okay.
And I believe the last vote was for a rate increase, and we had 2 on this end who did vote for it. But
I'm not opposed to a rate increase. I just want it to be enough to cover that additional position.
And of course that's the rub, right? The challenge of there's a number for doing it all, and there's a number for doing some things, and there's a number for
nothing.
Right, and ultimately this is the hard decision, but we really need. If there's additional information we could provide to you, that's what we're here for. But I don't know what other information is out there, and I think y'all have at this point everything we got available. It's just about the decision.
I think we all agree on one point. I think we do need to fund our staff.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can fuss about that. You might, but I
No, I don't fuss about it, I just.
But it's just one of those things we gotta do. I'm sorry. I voted for not a tax increase, but I don't wanna see us start all over again in the police department. Or the fire department either.
No.
Or
So-
a public works department. I mean, we have,
So I think that's one thing I think we can all agree on. Now, I don't wanna pay any more tax than anybody else, but I certainly don't wanna see those departments go down. So that's one consensus that we all agree on.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I guess I would put out, I don't consider the active living coordinator to be fluff. By building up this community, we put ourselves in the spotlight to build our tax base.
That's right.
So in future years, we don't have to sit here with Pat letting us know all the reasons why all the other municipalities' tax rates are more stable, right? And so we have to do that. It's what we have to do. Can we come to somewhat of a consensus and say that no one's knocking the need for that, but that can we afford it this year? Not that it comes off the table. I want that position. I want to work towards it, but I think it's pretty clear, at least here, we're 2, 2, and 2. We've got, low, moderate, high. Where are we going to meet on this? Because in a perfect world, I'm with you. I want that position. I know the benefits that it brings this community, especially to our taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
If we do not grow, if we do not bring development, then the taxes fall on the few. And so we have got to develop. However, are we going to get there this year? I guess is my question. I don't know if we're going to. I personally can't vote for that, but I will also, if I can at all help it, advocate for salary increases at all costs. I don't know. I would just put that out there for thought. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying I don't know that we're going to get there this year.
So I guess this is where I want to be careful, because it's not my job to tell y'all what to do or how to vote. I want to assist y'all in getting to this place.
We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I thought the mayor needed to be sitting here.
Well, if there is a consensus that the $97,000 issue is something that's worthy of funding, and there's consensus that in order to achieve that the $77,000 of other cuts that we've talked about are reasonable for the goal of achieving being able to fund that $97,000 through, I believe, again, it's back to that 6305. If there is consensus of that being the ultimate goal, knowing that we can't do everything we want to do, but if you had to pick which one you wanted to do the most, and you're in consensus that the funding of the study for staff is the top priority, which if we go back to the beginning of this process, that was the board direction. It appears like that is where, I guess, the compromise ultimately, as much as we wish we could do it all, that appears the most likely situation for compromise. But that, again, that's for y'all to determine, and again, maybe we need to come back, but that's my observation as I sit here.
Well, I really want the park and rec, but I know that might be a compromise I'm gonna have to make. I have no trouble with the tax increase, whichever way we go, because I don't know, I guess, I know taxes sometimes are a necessary evil, but as a history teacher, I know all the good things taxes have done in our history too. And our money is managed properly, and it's managed well, and our employees need to be compensated in the way that other employees are compensated. I was a public employee myself, and it's not fun to get wages that are frozen. And they're on fixed incomes basically, because they don't get bonuses and lots of additions for how well they do. It just doesn't happen. So I'm willing to compromise on that with knowing that we will get that position. And I think it'll hopefully be next year if we can't get it now. And maybe there are some compromises we can even look into working with another town and utilizing their person as an extra if they have any time. I don't know. There might be some other options we can explore. And some of those people on the Park and Rec committee might be glad to step up and help us through this year to get some things and take some of the load off the people up here. Because that's a very competent committee.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've burdened our staff with a lot of extra duties that they probably weren't in their job description to begin with.
Yeah. Like Anna.
Yeah.
And everybody else.
Yeah.
So, but I have no problem with the tax rate increase.
All right, so.
How do you feel about it, Pat?
Me?
Yes,
I'm willing to pay 65 cents on
I
100.
know that, but we're not talking about that.
Well, but I mean, that's, I mean,
Would you be in favor of what we just proposing as far as that goes, increase the salary of the employees
certainly.
and then do away with our rec leader and all these other little ads? Like
Postpone it.
postpone it for a year. Excuse me. Would you vote for that?
I don't know. I mean, and the reason I'm saying this is we have gone to the extent of finding some candidates that we've identified as good candidates. We've gone to the expense of building up a program that.
I understand, we all understand that, and that's important, but we owe it to our people first.
I look at it as we're gonna solidify our foundation. We need our staff to be secure before we can continue to build that skyscraper, right? And I'm also trying to be reasonable and looking at, I don't think we're gonna get, no pun intended, but we're not gonna get the no taxes whatsoever people up to salary increases and so I'm with you in a perfect world, and I hear everything you're saying. I agree with a lot of it. I just don't. We're not going to get this consensus there this year. So I look at the postponement as we need to solidify a few things first, and then get there because it's important and it's coming, and this community needs it.
I agree. Well, part of what brings people here is what we have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Which none of that's going to go away. We're simply, we got to push pause on the growth for 12 months.
But we got to make sure our public knows that if something happens emergency-wise, our fire department's going to be there. Mm-hmm. If somebody breaks into my house, the police department's going to be there. That is the most important thing right there. Services, whether we're going to be able to pick up our leaves next year, take care of limbs. I mean, this little town, like we've stressed, puts out a lot of services that our public takes advantage of. And I think they overlook it and say, well, we expect that. But for a little town like Spencer, like Pat said before, we offer a whole lot. And if we wasn't satisfied with the services, then I wouldn't vote for a price increase. But since we don't hear no complaints from about the fire department, about the police department, about our street department.
Not only that, we hear wonderful things.
I mean, I know everybody complains about the streets, but that's another story. That's not us. That's the state. But that's what you build your community on. So I think that would be our choice.
Could offer another vote?
Well, you could make the same.
Make another motion?
That would be the, if that's the,
I'm gonna restate my motion again.
Thank you, Miss Real, I'm glad you're here. Literally, I am.
I would like to make a motion that we increase the study on our employee, all our employees as far as it goes for our accredited study. Also reduce the, do not fund at this time our active living coordinator salary and benefits. Adjust the board's stipend for $100 per month, decrease for all our aldermen and mayor and pro tem. Reduce the recreation contract services of $4,800. Reduce the rec program fee of $1,800, and reduce or pause the CAC HC funds grants of $3,000.
Second. Any more discussion?
and again, and this would be at the 63.05.
63.05.
Any more discussion or questions? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so that passed.
Motion carries.
Motion passed. Well,
So do we record who voted yes and who voted no?
I can,
Yeah.
if that's the pleasure of the board.
I think isn't that typically what needs to be
I
done?
think that's typically how it's
for this,
recorded.
yeah, I think so. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for their composure and keeping their cool and stating their opinions. I feel like I am surrounded by very smart people who know how to listen, which is the first sign of a smart person, and know how to tell what they are responding to and how they feel about certain issues. And I really applaud everyone for coming to this decision. I thought it was going to be a little bit harder than usual, and it was, but we did it. So.
We still have more things on the agenda.
Oh, I know we got more things on the
Okay,
agenda.
just
So
remind
I don't need to say anymore. That's I got that.
No, I didn't, I'm sorry. I didn't.
No, I know.
I wasn't trying to cut
No,
you
know,
off, I was
can
just
get- no,
reminding
I
you.
can get carried away, so you did the right thing. So we are now going on to our next thing.
So have we accepted the budget ordinance?
So
Do we
Yeah.
need to?
you have adopted an ordinance with, and what staff will do is, we've got to,
Your wordsmith it, okay.
we've got to make it happen, of course, but we've got the direction. It's been approved, and we will proceed with that.
Okay, good. And I'm happy for y'all too that the decision's been made. Okay, we'll move on to item 13, departmental reports. We'll start with Mr. Blunt, planning and zoning.
Good job, guys. Before I launch into my normal statement, I will tell you we now have 2 open positions on the planning board, in-town positions. So if you know of anybody that's interested in serving on the planning board, have them get in touch with me, or any staff person can give them an application form. And with that, I will say, you have my written report in your package. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I see you had the zoning permit addition for Innispec. Are they going ahead with their addition, or how are they doing?
Well, as you'll remember, on numerous occasions, I've told you that they had a $50 to $75 million capital improvement plan for their plan out there.
Right.
I tried to convince them to put it all in one package and actually come to us and ask for some incentive grants because they would have qualified easily for that. They have decided not to do it that way. They're doing it a piece at a time. As they get something designed, they come and get zoning permits and they build it. This particular one, I think I issued 3 separate zoning permits for 3 separate small buildings. I have issued about 6 in the past 2 years to them. So their $50 to $75 million improvements to their capital structure will take place over time. It's just going to take place a little piece at a time.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Blunt?
Who's the splash pad? Is that gonna be a public thing, or is that?
It's an interesting project. Unfortunately, it's in a residential area, and I'm trying to explain to her that you can't have a commercial facility, a commercial swimming pool or splash pad in a residential area. She could have a private one. If she wants to put one in her backyard, she could do that, but not for public use. So we're still working with her on that.
You're gonna have trouble with the health department and everybody else.
Yes, this is an interesting job, guys. I get to see all kinds of stuff.
Now, you presented some things to the planning board last night. Are those coming here today or not?
No, they will come to you in July,
Okay.
plus a few other things.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Blunt. Code enforcement, Police Chief Michael Fowle. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Come over and tell some of my normal jokes and lighten the room up a little bit.
That'd be great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do have some good information. I provided the standard monthly report for code enforcement. We have 44 cases this month, so your code officer has been busy yet again. 2 this month of our top 10 houses that were on our list. We've got some pretty good movement on. So the house on 705 South Yadkin, which was the house that burned, has now been demolished and level flat. So we'll be prepping that lot, I assume, for sale. So we worked with Preston was working with the owner on that and was able to get that resolved fairly quickly. And then 804 South Salisbury Avenue, which is the damaged structure here on the right as you're going out of town. We've been working with that owner for actually a number of years. There is movement on that one now, so we're very happy. We've met with him twice in about the last 2 weeks. So there is a buyer for that house that is going to come in and do the repairs for it and rehab the house. Okay. So the original owners will not be going back into it, but we were able to get some movement on it without having to start levying really heavy fines, which would have been a more burden on the citizens. So I'm happy about that. So I just want to point those 2 out. And I've got 2 more, but I'm saving them for next month because I think we'll have photos with the ones next month. So, but I can answer any questions you may have about the code enforcement report this month.
Both of those were good news. Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question. I just really want to commend, 17 voluntary abatements. That's great, and I really enjoy how our code enforcement works with the community members. I think
yes, we call it the gift of gab.
I love
he can talk them into voluntary compliance, and that's much better than us fining. That's not our intent at all. We do not like fining the citizens. Some of them have to be, unfortunately, but we do not like that. So he has the gift of gab. He's able to take care of business and get a lot of voluntary compliance.
Good. Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Officer Fowle.
Thank you.
And now we'll go to the police report. Chief Fowle.
The one that's always easy to talk about. So I have again provided the standard monthly report for both.
Chief, you got the whole team here. You could just let them show and tell.
I wish I had a camera.
It looks pretty good.
Picture for your Facebook.
And keeping in mind, most of these guys, there's a few of them that are probably on the clock. Most of these guys are here on their own time. So I certainly appreciate their support of the department here coming to the meeting tonight.
Murph, I should have brought Murphy. His tail wags though, and it messes with my mic. I know.
We know Lieutenant Everett would have him amped up too much. But again, I have provided the monthly reports on both for the ACE team and for the agency as a whole. You will notice that the numbers are a little bit lower than normal. There were 2,676 events. Again, that is a reflection of a few things. One of our ACE team cars, or individual officers, is still out on medical leave, so obviously we're short that. We also have now 4 openings.
4 openings?
4 openings. Really? So we have lost numerous officers during the last, I guess, about 8 weeks. One of those is a position that's frozen in this coming year's budget, but 3 additional ones are officers that have left for other opportunities. So,
we appreciate it.
Definitely. Definitely. I told them they could clap, but I didn't know if it was inappropriate. But we appreciate your support tonight. We appreciate hard decision to make a raise here, fire department. Definitely was much needed for the morale of the agency. I think we're going to stop what I'll call the hemorrhage of officers leaving. I don't want to say for greener pastures, but much like Alderman Moody spoke tonight, Alderwoman Moody spoke tonight about things are expensive now. It's hard for the officers to afford what they need. It's hard for our fire individuals and our staff as a whole. Costs have went up, and that was kind of reflected in this budget this year. I know me and Peter discussed pretty substantially. Every item in the town budget is high. I mean, the vehicles we used to get for 30,000 or 50. The tasers we used to get for 1,000 or 2,000. Same thing for the officers at their house. So we appreciate it.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, all of you.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hate to hear that we have people who have left, but I understand that, you need to do what you have to do for your family. But,
and I believe this is a much needed morale boost. I think it's going to stop what I call the hemorrhage, though. We don't want to lose anymore. We don't want to be back where we were 4 years ago. We don't really want to even talk about where we were 4 years ago, having shootings in the street and houses broke into and cars went through. So there's been a lot that's been done, and a lot of that's reflected in this monthly report where you're seeing 3 and 3,200 events. It's a lot of hard work by the staff. So I believe this will help stop that. I'm happy to see it get passed. I know the staff is happy to see it get passed, and even though a few of you, we understand, we appreciate all the discussion that occurred tonight. So all the staff was here voluntarily. I know for police and fire departments, so we certainly are excited about that. But we do have about a 22% vacancy right now with those 4 leaving. We have a few interested candidates that are probably watching tonight. So as much, I hate to see anybody leave, but I'm happy they're watching tonight and they see that the board stood with public safety now. So I think that's probably going to solidify their decision to come to our agency. So I hope to have 2 of those positions filled probably within the next 2 months. So we'll start building that back up. As long as we don't go back to where we were not having 24-hour coverage. We don't want to see that occur again. So again, I appreciate everything the board does for us. But I'm done with my rant. I'll answer any questions you may have about the police department report this month.
If I remember, I think we passed a budget amendment a while back about refund of training money from a police officer who left. Is that correct?
Yes, there was. So that was a very short-lived officer that was here for a short period of time. He actually got out of law enforcement total. So he didn't leave on bad terms per se, but he was one that was still under contract. So he did pay us back. He was here for a very short period of time, less than 2 months, I believe. So he actually just got out of law enforcement period and went back to civilian work.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a certain period of time that they need to stay, and if they don't fulfill that, then
and it's a flat fee, and it's considered a training agreement. So we signed that with new officers. That's simply because of the amount of money we have to put in. That's not really counting the ones we have to send to VLET, obviously, to get them certified, but it's counting the amount of money that we put into them as far as their background process and their kind of initial training during their first 90 days to get them out on the street working.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Joel Taylor, Public Works.
No. Fire Chief.
Fire Chief.
Sorry, Chief Landon.
Sorry.
I'll gladly go sit down if that's what
They changed that.
You want to join the Public Works?
Do what?
Do you want to join the Public Works team?
Is there a pay raise?
We've seen him with a chainsaw.
That's right. So you have my written report before you. I did want to highlight I'll give a little bit of information about the 95E1. It was listed on GovDeals. We had set a reserve, which reflected what was programmed into the operating budget this year. Unfortunately, we got ballparks away. So we do have 2 current options that I'm exploring. I don't feel comfortable publicly saying what those are yet, trying to gather some more details. So unfortunately, that is very much a work in progress. But we, myself, Heather, and Peter are working endlessly to try to find a solution for that. Briefly, we talked about the Fire Truck Festival. Again, that's from 9 to 3:30. Please come out. We'll have our trucks on display. Atlantic is proudly displaying our truck right out in the center on Saturday, and then there'll be a fire truck show that everyone that participates is encouraged. They'll go from the entrance there on Samuel Spencer up to the side entrance, and then we'll take a picture at the roundhouse. So if you've never been, it's a great event. Try to get there early before it gets hot, but other than that, it's a good time. And then we have cut off the registration for fire camp. We had roughly 14 applicants this year, give or take one or two that I'm still waiting on. So slight increase from last year. Just like Chief Fowle said, we are as well short 2 positions, a firefighter and engineer, due to a recent retirement. So wish him well in his future endeavors. But again, first off, thank you. I think I speak for my staff that's here in attendance. I think the grave reality is I was very concerned what fire protection for the town of Spencer looked like had that not been a positive vote. We're thankful. So just know that we are extremely thankful to have your support. But with that, this is the reality that one more vacancy does put us a shift short. So the reality and what that looks like is 2 out of 6 days, the fire protection in the town of Spencer is going to be non-existent. So that is even more crucial why I think this salary implementation is going to be vital for us, and especially with recruitment. So, any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Taylor, Public Works.
I'd like to learn how to operate the garbage truck. I don't know if you need a permit or a license for that, but it's on my goal for life.
Class B license, and we'll put you to work tomorrow.
I'll start today.
That's it. That's it. Air brake restriction. That's the only thing you lack. So, good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Pro Tem and members of the board. Sorry about that. That was a little bad. On behalf of the Public Works Department, we want to say thank you also for all the deliberation and the consideration that you put into tonight. It'll be welcomed by my guys, so we appreciate it. Just a few updates. The Independence Day holiday, July 4th, will be before the next meeting, but it falls on Friday this year, so it won't interfere with anything as far as trash service. Everything will carry on as normal. The latest stormwater repair on the corner of 6th and Yakin has been completed. So that was done, and it was funded actually by money that we had put aside for the 2nd Street project that we didn't use. So we actually got 2 for 1. Good. So that was actually a blessing. We didn't have to put any other funds with it. It just, it actually took care of it. So, of course, the contractors out here have been slowed down tremendously by the wet weather. So, but they're working hard. They were out there today. When the sun is shining, they're working in the mud. It doesn't matter to them. They're still trying to get it in. And we'll get an update, I guess, on Wednesday, on, what their plans are, how far they're going to go. Just an update on the Chicken Springs Dam. We did get another inspection. We're working through that right now from Diener on that dam. A lot of it's reiteration from what it was before. Of course, we're still looking for funding sources to be able to fix it. Just want to let you know that we did receive another inspection, and we're working through a response to get back to them. Like I said, it's pretty much reiteration from the last one we got. I mean, nothing's been improved. We're still doing the same things to fix it, but we did receive, I believe it was yesterday, we actually got the inspection. So, and the CCAP, still working with the contractor. He's behind on other jobs because of the rain. So we're hoping to get started either late this week or maybe the first of next week. He wants to get it where he can do a whole week, so we can just shut that piece of the road down, go through, do it, and then reopen the road for the weekend, so we don't have to do a weekend swap. But as long as we get it started before the end of the month, Chris is he'll be happy that we'll have that done. So, and I will answer any questions that you may have.
Was there a water main problem on Whitehead either this week or last week?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but yeah. Randy hasn't said anything to me about a water main issue. I know he has fixed several.
I came through there and it had not rained, and I just wondered if there was. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it was. Okay.
There's been a lot of water sitting in places that normally hasn't. There's also drainage that will go places, when it gets so full I'm not saying that that's what
Jump
it
in,
is.
there may be some hydrant flushing or some activities that fire department was doing.
Okay, yeah.
We have a water leak, it's these guys back there.
I was about to say.
It's their fault, it's
17.
Austin's fault. So,
Okay.
that's very good.
Okay.
That's very, that could be possibly as
That's
well.
probably-
Okay.
that's
That's
probably
true.
where it
Thank
was.
you.
I was noticing some chatter in the back row there.
Was it Whitehead? You've been on Whitehead?
There you go.
Okay,
There's your culprit.
all right,
Found them.
okay. That's a good kind of habit.
That's a good kind,
Yep.
exactly, exactly, for sure, for sure. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bill.
Hey, Heather. I know you're tired.
All right. Good evening once again.
Good evening.
So our finance report, an update on our conversion. We have submitted templates with all of our information for our vendors and our employees to Black Mountain Software. They're going over that so that we can get everything entered in and transferred over smoothly. Account mapping is underway. They're reviewing that as well. What account mapping means is that whenever our general ledger account, the way we have it formatted with fund, revenue or expense, and then a grouping, it's just going to change a little bit. So once I get that back, I'll let the department heads know. I've created the fund for Fund 97 for the Sandback Forest Sandback Forest Center and Trails. That's been done. I'm going to plan to move the funds over. I put the 4th on there, but haven't done that yet because other things have taken priority. Then next is a snapshot of where we stand in the general fund. If you guys can understand what I'm looking at there or what I've presented there, that would be great if you just let me know if you understand what I'm trying to portray there. We have our budgeted, what is encumbered, that means POs that are in place, then our activity for the year and the variance. So I wanted to make sure that in that encumbrance, we know that there's a couple of large POs out there. One is for the stormwater planning grant, and with that $245,000 in expenses, we will receive that back in reimbursement. So that is offset by revenues, if that makes sense to you. Is there any questions about that? Okay. The next part is our sales and use tax. And we're trying to keep up with that, trying to give you a monthly update on it. As of the June's distribution, we are right on track. And if we keep going at the 3%, we should be a little bit over budget by about a couple $100. So we're good there. And I looked at, we received our notification from Rowan County on our taxes there, and we should meet budget on those revenues as well. Now, as far as my report goes and all the line items there, it's basically the same. There's really nothing that stands out. I've kind of included the same notes that I've had for the past couple months. I will let you know that the accounts that you show that are over budget, we will go through that budget and do a budget transfer and clean those up by the end of the month. So, if there's any questions on those. We're good?
Thank you.
And on behalf of my staff, thank you so much for your deliberations tonight and just the time to express your feelings, whether it's a positive or negative or, just, what you're for and what you're against. Just having that conversation helps us as employees, realize what goes into the budget process. It's not just one person up here saying, hey, this is what we're going to spend. It's everybody collectively saying exactly what our departments need, what our revenues can cover, and some of the difficult decisions that we have to make as staff members and as board members. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Okay, library report.
Good evening. I guess I'll just go ahead and reiterate what everybody else has been saying. Thank you for your attention to everything and your hard work along with us. So, since I'm the clerk, I can't have opinions on anything, but I just want to thank you. And as far as the library report goes, so we did adjust the report a little bit since we're adding in Parks and Recs. So I've added last month, Joe helped me out and gave a report on the Active Living Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So I added a page in after the library report for that, and for the moment, just calling it Active Living Report, the whole thing together. So for the library portion of it, Librarian McCraw, she did a Paris-themed event this past month where she had an accordion player coming. He played songs and there were snacks and everything. And she had her big event this past Saturday, which unfortunately I wasn't able to attend, but it sounded like it went really well with all the musicians there. And I believe there was the food truck from Queso Salsa too. And she has the upcoming summer reading program, which will be looking at different cultures around the world. She'll have different performers and potentially authors and other speakers come. And she usually reads to the kids and has crafts and all of that. Which that does, she asks people to sign up for that. So if you know anyone who might be interested, please ask them to reach out so she can make sure she has the supplies she needs. And as for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, this past meeting, Alderwoman Moody was gracious enough to take minutes for me because I was gallivanting across the country.
I don't think they met your normal standards, but
no, they were good. They were really good.
I copied last month that you did.
I thought maybe, but that's what I do too. So.
No need to recreate the wheel.
Exactly. And so, correct me if I get any of this wrong, but it sounded like there was discussion. Joe gave updates as well as Steve about Grants Creek Greenway. There was discussion about the finalized bylaws, which you all approved earlier during this meeting. There was a chair, oh my gosh, Pendergrass. He came back with his report about signage needs with the Standback Educational Forest Trail. And there was discussion about the summer youth program, which staff has had some meetings with local organizations to look into that a little bit as well. And there was, again, discussion about needing an MOU for the 8th Street Ballpark usage, and Joe provided an update on the Town Park Capital campaign. That seemed to be the highlights. Any questions?
I can't remember who asked me about this, but I was asked if our active living group or whatever might consider the summer food program that is done through the school system. The church, one of the churches here in town, had done it for a couple of years, but they didn't take it on last year. Yeah.
It's the Methodist Church. Linda talked to you about it.
Okay, is that who it was that asked me about it and wondered if the town
might pick it up as far as offering it and possibly using the facility out there?
Yeah.
Or maybe the park here.
Yeah.
Harvey Park. So.
And I would imagine that the site, if you're talking, are you talking about for maybe next summer versus this summer, given I'd imagine that the sites get set up, at certain point well in advance.
They've already made commitments for this year.
Well,
they already have those
already underway. So.
It's something we could think about.
Yep.
Which is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Oh, before I forget, just to make one clarification, the pre-agenda meeting will be, according to the schedule, you all set later last year. It is on the 3rd, so the day before the 4th of July, and then the regular meeting is that following Tuesday.
The pre-agenda will be.
It's on July 3rd,
Okay.
according to the schedule currently.
A Thursday.
Yes,
as
it's
usual.
a Thursday,
Yeah.
per usual.
Okay,
Yes.
and then the meeting will be Tuesday.
Yes, the 8th, because that's already the second Tuesday.
I'm on the Thursday.
I will be here Thursday, I will not be here Tuesday. On vacation.
You just went on vacation. How many times you get to go somewhere?
So you won't be here when?
Yeah.
So you won't be here when?
I'll be here Tuesday.
Mine's the opposite. I won't be here Thursday, I'll be here Tuesday.
Okay, passing ships.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. Okay, Mr. Franzese,
That's me.
do you have your report?
I have a report. You have it, and
It's in our book. It's in
yes,
our
I'll
booklet.
go over a few items, and of course, be happy to answer any questions. And
I think I've lost that page.
not to
The very last.
not to repeat what you've already heard, but certainly this was a challenging budget process. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you to come to a conclusion and be able to move forward, and we look forward to what's ahead. And a lot of our staff have left, but a lot have been here, and I want to personally thank each of you for taking part in the process in the way you have, and also for your service. It's really an honor to serve alongside of you in this community, and we are all in it together. We all have a part to play, and certainly appreciate the fact that we got to spend a little time in the boardroom together over the last few days. And don't forget, it's here every month on the second Tuesday and the Thursday prior. Come back another time.
Do you want to mention the park opening since we won't have another meeting?
Yes, so I'm going to certainly talk about that. Before I get to that, I wanted to let folks know, and if you're an educator or you know an educator, for the second year, the North Carolina City County Management Association is partnering with Carolina K-12, Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and others to put on a civics seminar for K-12 teachers here in Rowan County. And we did this last year and had a great response, and it was so good that the committee said, let's do it again right here. This thing has historically moved around the state. And so it's coming up July 22nd and 23rd, and it's open to educators and for K-12 that teach civics and social studies and that sort of thing. And the idea is to help with lesson plans and activities and all the things around how to teach about local government, how to teach about civics. And it's an initiative of our association because we believe that good citizenship can start at a young age of understanding how it works. And so that's one of the things we, as professional managers, hold high and work on because we think it's important. And so that's coming up, though. So if you're an educator or you know an educator, check out this opportunity. If you go to the Carolina K-12 website, if you look that up, the seminar is called Re-Engage 2025 North Carolina Local Government and Youth, and it's through the Carolina Public Humanities. So you can take that, you can check it out, learn more, and sign up. It is not only a free training opportunity, but the association has funding through Civic Credit Union and others to actually pay those who attend for travel expenses and also provide CE credits. So it's a really good opportunity. We're enhancing it this year by not just having the 2 days here in Rowan County, but we've established 5 sites across the state that they can then go back and we're going to have it so you spend 2 days here kind of in a classroom setting, go back and within an hour drive, hopefully find a local government host that is going to do a day of site visits locally rather than do all of it here. And so we're excited about all that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add that our town has a really good program about municipalities and how they govern. And I went with them when they presented it at Salisbury Academy, and that's available for local civics teachers around here. It's a really good program. So some of you might want to talk to your teachers about that.
Yeah, staff is happy to come visit and talk with students as well.
Okay, thank you.
So as in terms of the park project, I know several months ago, we talked about the schedule and that we were ahead of schedule, and then it started raining. And we're still on schedule. It's gonna be kind of probably a photo finish, but our contractor is telling us that our plans to open the park on June 28th are still gonna work out. Now, I'll say that we've talked about maybe a plan B or a plan, well, I won't talk about plan C because that involves Steve's back porch or something, but plan B might be if for some reason we get really bad luck and this lawn just can't get put in time. Plan B might be turn it around and, you know, have this side of the pavilion be used for the viewing, which of course would not be ideal, but we're still working towards that. In terms of our fundraising campaign, we have reached the $333,000 base project amount that we needed to raise. Everything on top of that, our 385 stretch goal was about gravy. Right now, we don't have any gravy, but we still have some things in the hopper that it could work out that we find some additional funds. But between the fundraising we've done, we've got about $25,000 in contingency remaining that we were able to use to order the furnishings, and that actually mostly got delivered today. So the pieces are going to fall into place, and what the 28th is going to be about is, of course, in concert with what's happening for fireworks over Spencer that the museum does. That event happens after the museum closes for the day. It reopens for the community to come in with no admission and has all sorts of entertainment and things going on leading up to the fireworks at 9:15. Starting, and I don't have my revised schedule in my head, but somewhere between 4 and 5 o'clock, what we're envisioning is not a formal dedication ceremony, but an opening ceremony of sorts. Maybe cut a ribbon and have some comments about the project, and then have fun. We've got a band lined up, Motel Soap. Some folks may be familiar with them. I know they do a charity show each year for Meals on Wheels. We have been working to identify sponsors to bring them in, and that's going well as well. But Motel Soap has already started publicizing this for us, but we're working on our own publicity that'll come out this week. But that's the plan. They're going to play roughly 3 75-minute sets that should be finishing up just before the fireworks start. So that's the plan for the 28th.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Sounds good. Okay. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Do we need, first of all, okay, now Matt, does any board member want to make any comment or request at this point? I mean, some of you may want to. So we'll just start down there with the sheet and go straight up.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say it was good to see the room filled up this evening with staff and residents. Would be good to see that more often. Preferably more residents to be present and to speak on public comment as well. With that being said, you know, we will continue to collectively work together to work for the betterment of this town, for the staff and the residents. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Whatever. I've been able to take to do a couple of things during the last period. I represented the town at the 100th anniversary celebration of Oakdale Baptist Church a couple of weeks of June the 1st, and that was really nice. They had a full house too. Actually, they had to open some sections that they normally don't use and proceeding. So that was really good. I was able to attend the the DOT's celebration for Senator Elizabeth Dole when they dedicated a stretch of Interstate 85 to her, and had an opportunity to actually speak with her, and I had met her before, and it was good to see her again. I would like to mention that a couple of things going on here in June. June is Pride Month, and I wanted to recognize that, and also Juneteenth. And those are both celebrations that are being held in Salisbury. If you don't know what Juneteenth is, that's the date that the enslaved people of Texas learned that they had been freed, and that was considerably later than the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed. I would also say that Alderman Rashad spoke to me on the streets of Salisbury last weekend when I was out with a group who were taking advantage of the expression of our First Amendment rights. There's nonpartisan groups who are rallying on the streets and bringing attention to things that we see that people need to be made aware of. So, and this is a nonviolent protests that are being done, and we welcome people of any belief, I guess is the right word, to come and join us. There is one that will be held on the 14th that's called the No Kings rally, and it's going to be down on Ennis Street at the Gateway down, I think it's the corner of Lee Street and Ennis. So if y'all want to come out and bring your American flags and show your patriotism, you're welcome. And again, thank you all for all of our staff people who have hung in there with us through this difficult process. I'm glad you're here. I want to keep you here. We want to do everything we can to be sure that we give you what you need. So thanks for hanging in with us.
That's it. Thank you. Mr. Hale?
Yeah, thank you. I think to you all up here, that was kind of painful. Personally, I don't mind paying the 63 cents. I just had to vote for how 3,600 people feel about that, not how I feel about it. So I don't like losing, but I guess I can take heart that in some ways I don't mind it too much. I hope that the folks who are playing along either here at home or who will watch this in the future, who I guess like to torture themselves, I'm not sure, but they'll understand that we're not sock puppets for the manager, that we do care deeply about what this process is, and we debate vigorously about what it should be. And again to Mr. Franzese and to Heather and everyone, thank you for the time and energy. I texted Peter earlier, I think maybe last week, or I don't even remember, maybe yesterday. What was it, Thursday, Friday? I don't even know. But I told him I hope that no one took my position as an affront or confrontational. I just, sometimes you just have to say what you think it is, and that's what it is. So I do acknowledge how hard you all work to get us here, and how hard you all work to get us here. I do have some thoughts about some of the reasons that we're here, some of which have no control, are totally beyond things we can control at a state or national level. But then I would be pontificating and doing the very thing that I loathe, and that's bringing national politics into something that has nothing to do with national politics. So I'll be quiet on that. Yeah, that's right. But other than that, it's going to be a blast to see this park open, And, you know, we have a park worth many millions that the town itself, in terms of the tax revenue, contributed very, very little, equivalent of a nice TV for a $300,000 house. So we got the $300,000 house for free, and we just bought the nice TV. So it's going to be exciting to see that. It's going to be exciting to see all the people who come into town to watch the fireworks here in a couple of weeks. That's become my kids have been asking about it for about 4 months, so it's finally here. So again, thank you, and happy. I guess I'll see you guys before the 4th. Happy 4th, and we'll I'll be quiet at that.
I don't know how I follow that, sir. I just appreciate everyone's conversations tonight. I won't go too much, but you guys have worked really hard, and I really appreciate that. I just want to share, because I know we're going to have a lot of, frankly, I don't think there was a decision to make where we're not going to get some blowback on this, like spitting into the wind. But I just want to share for anyone, I think it's pertinent that I'm the sole financial provider at my house. I work 3 jobs. And so I just want to put out there that while I would vote for a tax increase again to appropriately pay our staff, I deeply understand what it means to live on a fixed income and live paycheck to paycheck. And so I just want to put out there that I take very seriously every consideration that impact all of us who live here in Spencer. And, you know, I am happy to have my stipend in half, which, you know, and raise my personal tax rate because I really believe in the staff here, and the teams here, and in the community here. And I'm happy to be a transplant and be a part of it. So I just want to say this decision was not made lightly. I think we made the right one, obviously. However, I really appreciate the passion and all the ideas that everyone brought tonight. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
I'm gonna keep it real short and sweet. I'd like to thank the staff, the board members here for their decision. It wasn't an easy decision. We didn't get what everybody wanted, but I think we worked together as a good board group, and it came out favorable. And thank you for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. And I say ditto to the staff that has done all this work on the budget and everything else. So kudos to y'all, and thank you for your thoroughness. I just want to make 2 quick announcements. Last night was table 10 at the community dinner. It's the 2nd Monday of each month, and it's right down here at Lemon Bakery, and it's sponsored by Clemens and Pinocchio's. And it's a $15 charge or whatever you can pay, all the way down to nothing. So you can eat free if you've got a family and it's a tight month. I mean, I saw a lady went there the other day. No one knows this, but she had 5 children with her, but she didn't have the money, and she got to eat free. You know, you can pay it forward if you want to. Like you can pay $30 or $40 for your meal. It's not making a profit. It goes right back into the next meal. And last night they had a fish fry.
It was great.
Wow. Yeah, so if you haven't been, mark your calendar so you can do that one day this summer. And as far as I understand, this is going to be a monthly thing forever at this point. And the other thing, and I'm going to be real brief about this, if you care about North Rowan and you're concerned about anything that you've heard going on in the community, and I'm not going to allude to that, go to the school board meeting on June the 26th, 4 o'clock. They're asking for North Rowan supporters to go to the meeting. I'm sure there will be people that sign up to address the school board about some things that they are concerned about. Brian Alford, who has been recognized up here by our board for everything he does for the schools, is Booster Club president, and he is organizing a group. It's not a militant or a mean group, but a group that wants to find out what's going on and what their plans are for North Rowan. So if you care about North Rowan, if you're alumnus or alumni, or if you just live here and you're interested, please show up. That'll be on June the 26th at 4 o'clock. Thank you. And with that, is there a need to go into executive session? Okay.
Please, no.
We'll vote on that one.
We've given till it hurts.
Yeah. Is there a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All approved. All in favor. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. It's on.